Welcome to my channel, guys. My name is Josie and I'm a graphic designer, and today we are making a headphone brand. I wanted to do a tech brand, but I'm not like a hardware person. Obviously, I'm definitely a software person, but I thought that headphones would be cute and we could do something really fun and kind of different with this. So I'm really excited about this one. And guys, this was a lot of work, okay? This video heavily edited, okay? So we're gonna get into that, but first we do a competitor analysis. So in branding, this is just where you look at what other brands are doing, how they position themselves, and then from that you can kind of find a new angle or a different way of doing things. So we are gonna go onto my Figma board, which is where I've built these out. The first thing to say about Bose is in, I think, 2022, they did a bit of a brand refresh with Collins. And the main thing they focused on was the typography, so really modernizing this logo from the 60s and like maintaining the core elements of it, and then developing out this typeface that comes from that. Really bold, they have really great slanted moments with this typeface. In terms of visual identity, they like to use this line as kind of a through line coming from the B and the E, which is kind of a framing device for some of their imagery. And they also do these very colorized like images and settings, so if it's green, all of the tinting of the images is green. If it's yellow, it's all yellow, etc. I will say, for like all of these brands except for one, I'm pretty sure, the websites are just like template e-commerce websites. They're very basic. There's nothing really special about them. So it does kind of feel like a little bit of a catfish sometimes to see these really beautiful kind of brand identities and like visual identities, and then the website feels like a bit of an afterthought. They just kind of stuck the images on. And I do definitely feel that way about Bose. However, one thing from the website I really liked is this 3D like headphone model, so you can click on it and like move it around in the 3D. But I guess the main design takeaway from Bose is leaning into the typography. Okay, next is Dyson. Now, I have something to say. Let me say my truth. I grew up in the 2000s, and I remember Dyson commercials so vividly, and Dyson was like, this is design, guys, like this is technology. Like they would have the commercials with the vacuums with the balls, obviously that's the main product, but they also, when they came out with the Dyson fan, I was shook. Like that was like that was a big moment for me, that Dyson fan. And we never had one like growing up. I've never had a Dyson fan or an air wrap for that matter. Don't get me started on the air wraps. Yeah, we never had a Dyson fan, so I would only see them in the stores, and I always thought that like if you had a Dyson fan, you were rich. Like you were like whoever the super or Batman is. Dyson makes headphones, apparently. This is something I learned doing this research. And of course they have the classic videos of the headphone like splitting open and like the diagram type of moment, like air, because Dyson's all about air, so like music, air. I don't know, guys. Just tech renders, like very tech renders. The photography feels like, I can't tell if it feels dated or if it feels like so referential that it's modern. You know what I mean? Like it feels like it's making a bit of like a Y2K reference, but not well. But the thing that's notable about Dyson is they do this kind of modular customization with the headphones, so you can choose the colors, and the headphones feel quite like retro futurist to me, like almost unintentionally, just the design of them. And they have some cool like materials, like a ceramic material and this like kind of chrome material, and you can choose the colors for these different things, including the padding and the outside thing. Sorry, I don't know the word for it, but like the main core piece of it, which I think is really cool. I think this is a really cool design feature, and that's what I originally wanted to do with my brand, but I just felt like it would be a lot of technicalities. So that's something I really like about Dyson. Branding wise, Dyson stands out to me because to me, like I said before, they have this reputation of product design, innovation, and that's where they stand in terms of being unique. I think nowadays, like Dyson materials and marketing materials and just everything that they do, it doesn't feel particularly modern, yet they're still like innovating in terms of technology. But Dyson's point as a brand is the products, which I think is very valid. Okay, next we gotta talk about Apple, of course, and the AirPod Maxes. Sorry, I'm saying so many opinions in this, but okay, the calling this an AirPod, does anybody else not feel right about calling over-the-ear headphones AirPods? There's nothing pod about them, but I digress. The thing that I really like about Apple is the website feels like an experience in storytelling when you are on the like AirPod tab, and as you're going through it, there's this really like beautiful kind of movement and these really great diagrams and all these different things that feel like you're entering the world of Apple as a brand. And of course we all know like they have a very strong visual identity, minimalist and all these sorts of things. And the photography of their models feels like a callback to the early Apple ads with like the silhouettes, but kind of a modernized version of that. Personally, I don't like the design of the AirPod Pros, I think, or the AirPod Maxes. I think they're kind of silly looking, but I do like that they're unique and it's something that is visually distinct from other ones in the category. There's two kind of auxiliary things about AirPod Maxes that I want to say. Number one is there's like a culture of customization around the AirPod Max. And of course you can get cases for like all headphone types, but I feel like AirPod Maxes especially, like a lot of people 3D print them and there's a culture of like, you know, selling different 3D printed cases and customized, you know, outer exteriors for them, which I think is really cool. And second, when I think of the AirPod Max, especially the colored ones, like the pink ones, I think of like a Pilates princess type of girl in like a matching set, and the AirPod Maxes match her workout set, which like that might just be me, but like that's what comes to mind. And I feel like this kind of Pinterest type of person has been carved out in terms of a consumer category, which Apple has not tried to do. Like Apple is targeting everyone because to sell headphones you need to be inclusive for the most part, but this category has kind of like come out of, for whatever reason, it's associated with the AirPod Maxes, which I think is really interesting. This kind of like unintentional targeting of a category of people, which they never really targeted. They just pretty girls like AirPod Maxes, I guess. But yeah, I just think that's interesting that there's a type of consumer that me and I'm sure lots of other people associate with these headphones, and they didn't really make an attempt to do that. As far as I know, it just kind of happened. Speaking of targeting a consumer category, Skullcandy. So Skullcandy is the only brand that I think actually has a target demographic, and that is this kind of, like, it feels dated saying this, but it's kind of like a rock and roll, like, skater bro type of person. I think they belong to Bose Company, I believe. So it's a bit of a sub-brand. But Skullcandy, they have Tony Hawk as one of their brand ambassadors. They do really silly ads, like, and they do installations and partnerships. Like this image of the snowboarder on the headphones, I think is such a great image. And it feels like this is for like an alternative person, but not like fully alternative. A lot of these brands, they'll feel quite vague in general, I'll say, because they are tech brands or music brands. So tech and music are both categories for everybody. Which means that, of course, you don't want to have a super distinct brand if you are a really big company like Dyson or Bose that do all these different things, because obviously you don't want to alienate anybody. The point is that it's inclusive. But Skullcandy actually has this target demographic, and the aesthetic kind of leans into that. Obviously, the skull logo is really cool, but they do other things. Like, I like their graphics. I think they're really well executed. I also think they have these model images that are really interesting because you can see from the woman here, there's like joy on her face. There's like this experience of listening to music, and they have other models showing like that as well. Like there's a reaction on their face of, we are experiencing something exciting while we're listening to like our headphones, like Joe Rogan podcast. They also have some interesting, more kind of custom headphones. So they did a partnership with an outdoor brand, and they have camo headphones, which are very trendy right now. I'm from the country, so I think camo trending is hilarious, and the thought of somebody wearing camo headphones is actually insane to me. But anyways, but there's these cool capsule collections that are a bit more out there. Another thing they have, which is cool, is children's headphones. So headphones that are designed for the size of a child with noise limits on them. I think that's really interesting. Skullcandy was my first like headphones. I had a purple, like I think it was like my brother or sister's old pair, and it was purple. It was really cute. So anyways, love Skullcandy. They actually have like a sort of personality. I'm gonna end on a brand that's very interesting that I did not know much about until recently. Marshall, I believe, sells vinyl record players. I think I have a Marshall record player, but they have these headphones, which are apparently trending with hipsters, these kind of vintage style headphones. I don't know, guys. But the brand images and styling are very different. So they have a whole range of things. These film photos, these kind of painted on photos, these scribbled moments, like scribbling and drawing on these images, and these like kind of cut out and taped back together photos as well. And the actual product renders are beautiful. They're very subtle, and some of them are in these like really nice kind of velvety settings. It's really, really thoughtful, and it's really, really well done, and it's leaning into an analog feeling and an analog design style, which obviously you don't get with these tech companies, because the whole point is that it's not analog, it's technological. But this is such a great like blend of the two, especially because the type of person who's gonna buy Marshall headphones is somebody who likes kind of something that's a bit more artsy and vintage feeling, which I think is really cool. I also think that you can see just from the images here, like you're targeting a broad range of people in different ages, which I think you can do a certain creative tone of voice that reaches those people. So like a teenage girl and an older kind of alternative man might have the same sort of taste in terms of these design stylings. And this is something interesting that you can overlap, and you can, you know, target these different demographics of people who actually have more in common than it might seem. Now, for my brand, I love headphones as an accessory. I'll show you mine. These are Sony's. I didn't do a brand on Sony because I wasn't that inspired, but I've crocheted the band myself, and I also have a sticker that I designed. These are my headphones. They're literally a fashion accessory for me. And I wanted to lean into that with this, and I wanted to have something that you could wear and you could change every day, that felt like an accessory that changed with you depending on your outfit or your vibe. And I wanted to really target young women specifically and say that this is a headphone that is like an accessory that you wear like other accessories. Now, my original design inspiration was Frutiger Arrow. I'll put a collage on screen so you can see what I'm talking about. You know Frutiger Arrow. You already know it, like in an intuitional sense. You know Frutiger Arrow. And I know that you know that. But I was like overwhelmed. So when the more I was researching, the more I was like, oh my god, this is like such a specific design language. It's very specific, and they use very specific tropes and ideas and concepts. And I just felt like, as I was researching more, I was like, oh my god, I can't, this is like so much for me to take in, and also to reference in a way that's modern, but not like a direct copy that feels dated. So I had all these like reservations, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna move away from this. But you'll see that I kind of unintentionally or like subconsciously kind of went back to that in the design process, because it wasn't on the top of my mind. Like it just kind of faded away, and then as I was doing things, I was like, oh wait, like that actually kind of feels like my original concept, which is cool. But we're gonna go to my vision board now. So my vision board is a little more Y2K. There's a lot of different kind of concepts floating around, but I love transparent and semi-transparent tech. I'm so sad that it's like not a trend, because the transparent Macs with the bodies, like I want one so badly. I think they're so cool. I also wanted to use some of this kind of backlit photography that's very like 90s, 2000s. I think that's a cool way of positioning things. And I also like gradients in sort of an aura sense, like the gradients that feel like an aura. That's the best way to describe it, is the word aura. And these layered gradients and these very like kind of, it just feels kind of tactile. It's hard to describe, but like, you know, when you see like a gradient feeling. And I also wanted to do a logo icon, which I never do. I don't like logo icons, but I thought for this, we're gonna switch it up, guys. We're gonna do a logo icon and do something that has maybe a bit of motion incorporated in it. So what I wanted to do for the actual headphones is I wanted there to be a little kind of Tamagotchi screen on the inside that has a light up character like here. So this has a light up character on the inside. And on the app, you can change that to different characters, and you can also upload your own videos and make those your own light up characters. So depending on your mood or your outfit, you could change how your headphones looked, and you can change the character of your headphones. And I thought that'd be really cute. And I also wanted to do something with, again, like this logo icon. I like sound waves as an image. And sometimes those sound waves look kind of like diamonds. And I thought, what if we pulled apart these sort of sound wave diamonds to be in the shape of a headphone? So like bigger ones on the sides and smaller ones on the top. Which kind of pulls it like 3 steps removed from the original idea or concept. And now it's just like diamonds in the shape of a headphone rather than a sound wave that is diamond shaped. So there's this kind of like moving through the concept to get to the final one. Now we're going to go into my Illustrator file where I begin the actual logo design. So the first thing I'm doing is making a very crude illustration for me to trace in Illustrator. I did some sketches in my notebook before going into this just to get an idea of how I wanted it to look. I found that manipulating shapes in Figma is a little bit annoying, so it would be a lot easier to do this in Illustrator. using the pucker and bloat effect to create some diamonds and just arrange those and see how it looked when I put them all together in this headphone shape. And then after that, this happened like a little bit further down the line, but I'm putting it here. I went in with some ruler guides to actually have a bit more of a grid system and a bit more like professionalism with the actual logo. So aligning them for the edge of the star shape to hit like the edge of a star shape below it, which you'll see here. But yeah, just trying to align everything and make it look more clean and polished and kind of systematic, because I think subconsciously, this is just me speculating, this is like when they did the Pepsi logo with like the Fibonacci sequence, but subconsciously, like, I think your mind like knows if a logo is like really well aligned or designed or spaced out. Is that true, guys? Do we know that subconsciously, or is that just like the industry? Comment down below. Also, can I just say, like, okay, don't call me stupid, but am I the only one that like doesn't really understand the Fibonacci sequence? Because I feel like people will overlay that on any image of like something that's curved, and they'll be like Fibonacci sequence, but it's just curved. Anyways, then I went into doing a color palette, and one thing that you will find is I started out with this idea of having all these kind of light rainbow colors and doing something that was in this kind of bright pastel color palette inspired by the vision board with these auras. This is the word I'm going to use, is these auras. A lot of them turned out to be like kind of really bright and a bit clashing, and things weren't really going the way I wanted them to go. And then when I went and actually modeled the headphones and applied the color that I wanted the headphones to be, I then derived the colors for the rest of the branding from those actual product colors, because I really like the way they look. But this is just my first step of trying to put some things together, mixing lights and darks and incorporating gray with these really beautiful rainbow colors, which ended up being great in the end to create like a gray to colored gradient, which turned out to be like a better thing to incorporate rather than just doing a bunch of gradients of bright colors, because bright colors can only take you so far. You can't do everything in bright colors. But yeah, I created a bunch of like auras with these different colors and trying to see how these gradients would look. And I do think there's something about Figma specifically, and this is one of the reasons why I work in Figma, that it just makes colors look really good and it makes gradients look really good. I guess I'm Figma pilled, guys. Like, I guess I'm Figma pilled now. Here I'm doing a storyboard using the logo. So I mentioned before that I like the way that kind of sound waves can turn into this headset. So I wanted to do a logo animation of them going from the waveforms into the headset shape. And after all of this, I ended up doing that in After Effects. The reason why I don't show myself animating in After Effects is because I'm not great at it and it's kind of tedious and not really fun to watch. But this is my storyboarding of what you will see the actual animation became. Okay, now we're in Blender. I downloaded this model off of CG Trader. It's a little bit like Beats by Dre inspired, I guess. And I applied a plastic texture, like a semi-transparent plastic texture, to the headphone. And then for the cushions, I use like a pearlescent texture. And then I added in just these like chrome spheres to be like buttons on the side, which I didn't label because I was like, you'll know, I don't know, the manual will tell you what the buttons do. And my original concept was to have a bunch of hardware like inside of the headset that you can kind of see. So that's why there's a circuit board just floating around the scene for no reason. But it didn't look like anything. It just looked like a blob. So I figured anything that I put inside, it's not that consequential, which is why I didn't end up like putting a bunch of stuff on the inside of the actual model. So to create the animations that go inside of the headphones, which you'll see, I went onto the Internet Archive GIF archive. This is a great resource, and I took different animations from here. I couldn't find a rabbit that was good, but I used a horse, a butterfly, and a cat. And so I downloaded that GIF, and then I imported it into my scene in Blender. I had to turn these GIFs into video files, so they are a .movie file with an alpha channel in the background so that it's transparent. You just import it as an image as plain, and then it becomes like a playable image. So you don't need to do anything. You just need to make sure that in the shader you click it to be cycling so that it keeps going. And then I applied an emission shader, which I put like a 15 or something like that, and it automatically turned it into this bright white light. I didn't have to do anything else, and so it was really easy to use. And then this is a great way to just put this in a scene, I guess. But guys, this happened after like a very severe creative block I had, because in my mind I was like, oh, I'm gonna need to animate different things for these headphones, and I could not bring myself to animate. I could not bring myself to illustrate. I had tried doing the GIF thing, it didn't work, and then after like struggling to animate something, I went back to it and I actually found these. So this was a whole back and forth long time period. And I will also say this video is very heavily edited. I had like over an hour and 40 minutes of footage originally, and that's just footage. Like, that's just what I screen recorded, not what I actually did. So this project was very time consuming, but you're seeing the edited version. Anyways, so yeah, I basically like stuck these videos inside of the object, and then I parented them to the object so that they wouldn't move around. And then here you can see me setting up the kind of frame for making the horse animation. And the background that I have here, this white plane, also has an emission shader on it. And an emission shader, if you don't know, it just makes that object create light. So that object is a light. And that creates a lit background that is, like I was saying, very reminiscent of this product photography that's this kind of 90s style. So now you have a lit background just by adding an emission shader to a plane. It's really easy. The first thing I kind of designed, because I thought it would be fun, is the app interface. So this is just in the app where you select your character, and you can also import your own GIF to create a character that would be in your headset. So any like video you want to use, you can use that. But from here, you could just like select the ones that you wanted. And going in with this like kind of aura idea and this kind of gradient idea, I had this like green border for the app, and depending on the color of headset you chose, like it would be that border color. And combining that with a chrome gradient. So I really like the way that like chrome looks with different colors. Everything I do, like I had like a little chrome moment to it. I have an app for the headphones that I use right now, and it shows you like your battery, like what audio mode you're on, those sorts of things. But I thought that one of the pages could be like this character screen. The next thing I designed is a desktop website. So I used a render of the pink headphones, and again, I kind of did the same thing with this gradient coming in, and I wanted to do kind of a diagram style of like different points coming off of the headphones saying different things. And I spent a long time going like back and forth about the top bar and how that would look, and basically how I would arrange the buttons and make the buttons look. What I did with these buttons was I added like a gradient effect, which has this kind of chrome look, which is actually very Frutiger Arrow. And the typeface I chose is also very Frutiger Arrow, which kind of like the two things like kind of come together here. Another note about the brand that I forgot to mention is it was originally called Sonic.co. I really like the word Sonic, but that damn blue fucking hedgehog like has taken everything Sonic related, including Sonic.co. There was like a Sonic company, but I was like, oh, Sonic.co, like something like that, because I think the word Sonico is a anime character or like a character in Japanese. But then I was like, oh, what if I did like Sonic Crown? So it's like a crown. Like, I don't know, like I'm really on the fence about if I like or if I dislike this word, but I like the crown concept because it feels like the audio and the music is like surrounding your head, like it's surrounding you, and like headphones are obviously like on your ears, and crown is just, it goes with the word Sonic, so it's Sonic Crown. Am I over explaining this? Sonic Crown. And for the typeface I chose, for the logo type, I really liked that kind of Dyson style, like very modernist, geometric, smooth typeface. And combining that with something a little bit geometric, like the secondary typeface I have, it is a bit kind of leaning into that Frutiger Arrow, kind of feels a bit techy, but like not in a futuristic way, but like maybe a futuristic way. I don't know, guys. It just felt right. And normally I spend ages on choosing a typeface, like I spend an eternity on choosing a typeface, and this time I said I'm going with my instinct. Okay, for the box design, guys, I'm just gonna come out and say it. I kind of ate with this one. I kind of devoured this box design. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I love like simple. I wanted just a simple render of the headphones. And then I thought, where do I put the logo? I'll just put it in the middle. And then the front of the box is this big logo type. And I knew from the beginning that I wanted to have like kind of a bleeding gradient of the blue coming up and coming into it, which you'll see. And it's very subtle. I love this shade of blue. I think it's so pretty. And also just like incorporating some of the type on the side of the box, like talking about the actual product. But I love like a very minimalist packaging design. I think it's so fun. And it's not something you get to do in real life because you actually have to put information on real packaging. But with these projects, I just do like minimalist things. There's a lot of concepts with this, guys. There's a lot going on. But in one of my billboards, I talked about 8D audio. You know when you're on YouTube and you look up like 8D audio and it's like they change the channels of the audio so it's like really surrounding you in like really weird ways? I feel like that's such a girl thing to like listen to 8D audio videos. Tell me if it is. But I was like, okay, spatial audio is really cool. I love spatial audio. So I decided to call it Halo, like their trademarked spatial audio technology is called Halo Spatial Audio. Like, because that's just such a cute name, right? Halo Spatial Audio. I also misspelled it here. Put that on the mock-up, and then I had to go back and like respell it. I have a little list of some of the talking points and then a little like block with the characters, and then you don't see it in this recording, but I also put a render of the side of the headphones showing the cat animation, like right on the side of the box, just to kind of bring it all together. And these boxes look so cute on the mock-up, guys. Like, I live for this box mock-up. So the last thing I was interested in doing was this kind of sliding graphic moment. So I saw this other brand, I can't remember the name of it. I think it's Cambridge, like headphones. They did this really cool sliding graphic of these different just kind of images, videos, like branded things like typography, taglines, just coming into the screen and moving off of the screen. And I thought that was really cool. So I thought I would do that for this. And it's a great way of putting a lot of information into one graphic. So putting this add to cart, this like product listing, and I made these like little orbs. Again, like the Fruitiger Arrow orb, but I wanted it to be a bit stripped back so it wasn't like full Fruitiger Arrow. And it's like these things are coming back into my mind as I'm creating the project. Also, some different close-up renders that I did. If you use a 3D model, guys, just get renders from all different angles, the logo, the side, the front, da-da-da. Did some of that, and then also like I created a spinning animation of the headphones as well. And just like placing that in one of these slides, like all of these different things coming together to have like these little branded moments, and it makes it feel very cohesive and coherent. And another way that I typically do this is by doing Instagram stories or Instagram posts. So you just put 3 graphics next to each other of like a story or a post, and that's another good way of just getting a feel for how you would use these different brand assets and these brand elements that you've created. So for example, I'm using like the gradients here, I'm also using the gray, also using the imagery, the animation, but when they're all put together it feels cohesive because you're practicing like how they would apply in these different like conveying information moments. So talking about the custom characters, talking about the product listings, showing off different things about the product, it just comes together really well. Okay, so that is Sonic Crown. This was a grind, guys, but I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'm going to show you the outcomes now. So tell me if there's anything else you want to see. Thanks for watching, and like and subscribe.